Romulus
The
and
moral of the
Luigi.
story is never love anything. It will only disappoint you.
I mean, that's why I only liked the Alien series. I didn't love them, but I did like them. I was more fun than some of the comic series.
It's
Well, go on.
the first two Aliens I absolutely adore. Aliens 3 I was disappointed because I was expecting one thing and I got something very, very different. Aliens Resurrection, I'm just not a fan of Joss Whedon's writing style.
Joss Whedon, you had all of one line in it, so I don't know why they bothered crediting him.
That's what they say about the Avengers, but the more you look into it, the more lines you can... Not the Avengers, well, maybe the Avengers, but also the X-Men film.
Really had a very interesting development kind of life.
Rather than fall too far into this particular tangent.
Yeah. Ironically, today's episode is a crossover between Star Trek Navis and the Alien franchise.
Which is kind of interesting, because I think haven't they done that once already in the comics?
The Aliens have crossed over with everything.
They're currently crossing over with the Avengers, so who knows?
I've seen
Aliens is one of the few.
Batman.
Technically, Aliens has crossed over with both Marvel and DC, so.
Yep.
And others.
Yeah. So many others.
Dark Horse? No, that's where they came from. So I'm being stupid.
Right, I'm just going to jump us into the intro sequence, and we'll be right back to discuss some important stuff. Some of which may or may not involve Ori, we'll find out.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. But while I've turned all that stuff off, if you can join us after the intro sequence, that would be rather nice. See you in a minute, folks. Hello folks, and welcome to the continuing adventures of the USS Navis. I'm MJ the GM, and I will be your games master for the next couple of hours, and with me are the majority of the Navis crew. We are sadly down our Chief Science Officer today. We wish him to get better as soon as he possibly can, and we will see him when we see him next. However, almost everybody's here, but there is something rather important we have to get through today, which is the fact that after having had the second edition rules for Star Trek Adventures come out in August, we have now switched over to second edition rules, so we'll see if we can't get the hang of this stuff. But that, of course, has meant that one or two things, or maybe some more than just two things, have changed. Not just for how things are done, but also some bits and pieces to do with folks' characters. So we're going to be trundling into that first before we get into the what we tend to do with our episodes, which is get things like Milestones Acclaim and or science projects out of the way. So before we go much further, the episode that we are going to be doing today is our 45th, and I have posted the start date for when this episode takes place in the chat log of Foundry, because keeping logs are now going to be pretty impotent. So that actually brings me to one of the first and biggest changes that are to do with how 2nd edition handles things like character, what do they call it, advancement. So, yeah, there are more than a few things to run through, but let's first get to the more important thing, which is people's character sheets themselves. So, folks, open your character sheets. You should notice there's now a heck of a lot more of information at the very, very top. Let me actually put on some incidental music just to keep things interesting for folks listening at home. But yes, there's now a lot more space on our character sheets for all the various stuff that we kept track of during character creation, which was, of course, things like the environment they were brought up in, their upbringing, their level of experience, what their personal path was for coming into being a main character, which of course is not always a Starfleet path, as we have discovered with somebody like Edwards. So almost everybody else except the character of Jonathan Edwards have got something like a Starfleet path or division that they have followed. But of course, our character of Jonathan Edwards got here a different manner, and so actually starts off as a civilian scientist path. So that's a good change that they've made, is that they've included character creation avenues, paths that don't involve Starfleet. Especially because now in the 2nd edition they allow for the creation of characters who are not just Federation members, but you could conceivably create Klingons, Romulans, Ferengi. I've even seen Cardassians in there, so all good stuff. All good stuff. Now, one of the things that I would like to bring to folks' attention, it's a small thing, but there is now a box, an area on your character sheets for past times. So if folks had a focus which represented their pastime, we can now move it out of the area of focus and stick it in pastimes. Now, I don't think I've done this for everybody, but I have done it for Andrews, as a for instance, because now Avid Runner has been taken out of focuses, and put into pastimes. It still technically counts as a form of focus-ish, but that does mean that now we've got an extra bit of room for a new focus for Andrews to put in, if Webby wants to have a think about what kind of focus he would like Andrews to have now that a focus has been freed up, thanks to putting Avid Runner in pastimes. If anybody else has what they think is a pastime in their list of focuses, which I don't think, I mean, the only one who comes close might be Bertram, but his
Ibis ventriloquism.
Well, that was a talent, if I remember, rather than a focus. So,
Matt, just so you know, I filled out my focus one already. I don't know if you want to check to make sure.
Moss. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's. I could have easily taken botany out of your list of focuses and put it in pastimes, but I've always kind of had the impression that with Bertram, it was always about the science, the focus of botany.
I think his environment actually says isolated colony, because I've always made the backstory that he was basically brought up in a village, raises the fin. Science is basically the primary focus.
Yes.
So he doesn't. He's kind of not really. His hobbies and in his mind his scientific research and his career are pretty much one and the same.
Yeah. So now, if you want, I'm not saying you have to, but there is now a space for you to put a pastime if Bertram ever comes up with one, if he's mellowed out with his age, or he's actually reading the notes on being a counsellor that he might have to tell other people to, find a hobby, just so everything you do isn't work, and then he has to think, well, wait a minute, I don't do that either. So as a for instance. Another somebody whose character sheet I didn't fully flush out was Sean. Nova's... I've actually forgotten Nova's career events, and as a moron, I didn't actually note it down anywhere, so there is a space in career events on your character sheet for you to put them in if you remember what they are, because I'm sorry I don't. I'm really sorry about that. I haven't found my notes anywhere on Nova's career events, so sorry.
I can't remember if I've still got them or not, but I'll have a look.
Because we got your history, we got your character history, that's for definite, that's still there, but not the career events. So, I mean, by this point the character's already made, so it's not a huge thing. If we can't remember, we can always come up with something, anything.
I've noticed some extra things.
Beg your pardon?
I've noticed some extra things.
Such as?
I didn't have faith of the heart nor
Ah,
translator.
that brings me to... This was something that made me outwardly groan the first time I read it, and it might make those of you who realise you've got it too groan as well if you get the reference, and I'm sure you do. But talents. Before, if you were of a species, for instance, Klingons, Vulcans, whatever, Betazoids, you usually had to give up a talent slot in order to fit a species-related something or other in there. Like, for the Klingons, it's like the Bracklaw, where they're that much more resistant to non-lethal damage. For the Betazoids, it's the whole thing of being telepathic or empathic. So what we've done with the new rule, I say we, I had nothing to do with it, but what Modiphius have done with the new rules is every species gets a species ability. They have called it... They called it... No, I was right, species abilities. So humans get a species ability called Faith of the Heart. I mean, they had to be trolling us when they made that one, right? Because the first thing that does is remind us about that god-awful intro theme to Star Trek Enterprise, so...
It's a shame that show only had a couple of seasons.
It's a shame about the theme song too, but there we go. But nevertheless, all humans should have Faith of the Heart as their species trait. Trill have got Patient as their species trait. Caval has got Intense for the Andorian trait. Bertram, of course, should also have Faith of the Heart because he's humans. Yep. Nova has the Empathic. Ori, they haven't released any species data or species makeup on Deltans yet. Deltans didn't come along till another module later, so I've had to pretty much guess that one. So we've put the Deltan pheromones in for the moment. That can change if and when we actually get a module that has got Deltans in them in the future, but for now we'll go with that. Talents, for the most part, have stayed the same, at least in regards to their names. They do more or less what they did before, with a couple of notable changes here and there. You can read them yourselves. I think the only character who I had to actually change a talent for was Nova. Again, you, Sean, you're just trouble. Sorry. No, it's not that. Her original talent for being able to grant more power is no longer applicable because starships no longer have power ratings. You either have reserve power or you don't. So I swapped out... what was it? I swapped out a little more power, which was the original talent, which allows you to grant additional bits of power gained, to more power with an exclamation mark. So that whenever Nova now tries to use the reroute power major action, you could spend 2 momentum to actually use reserve power on 2 systems rather than 1. the nature of which will probably become obvious once we actually dip into Starship-related shenanigans, but that can wait until we actually have to. I don't want to bombard you with too much information here. So we're just going over what's important. So, yes, talents. You've probably got a lot more talents than you had before because, like I said, you've got a species talent now, a species ability, but you've also got a benefit from the role you have on the starship. So one of your talents, like for instance, if I'm looking at Andrew's one again, you've got commanding officer. That's not so much a talent as it is a benefit of what role you have on the ship. So being the commanding officer means that Andrews has that particular role benefit. Vibers has got the executive officer. Caval definitely has the flight controller rather than the navigator, because the navigator doesn't do half as much as the helm officer does. Bertram, you've got chief medical officer for sure.
I think we should have the navigator.
Well, that's the thing. Navigator, as a role in combat at the very least, doesn't do much except assist the helm officer.
No, but we can just refer to them as the navigator.
You can't have the navigator unless you've got Pee Wee Herman.
Nova,
so
of
that
course,
right,
got
that voice is
operations
the GIF.
Ori has got science officer, and Edwards, because Edwards he's not technically communications officer anymore, but he is still one of the best linguists on the crew. Therefore, for now, I threw Edwards the role benefit of translator. So you technically do have your supporting character Keshen as your communications officer, and since at the moment Edwards seems very much more in the engineering department, I thought I would at least give him that kind of freedom of being like between those two departments. So translator will do as a role benefit. Hopefully that's okay.
Yeah, I have no problems with that.
Good. Awards. Award talents are pretty much the same as they were before, with only a few minor changes here and there. Most notably, anything to do with rolling challenge dice has, of course, gone. So it replaces it with things like veteran, for instance, when you roll determination. When you're using determination, rather than rolling a challenge dice to see if you get an effect, you're rolling a d20 and seeing if it equals or is less than your control rating. Others will find similar things, usually rolling against one of your own stats to see if you can get something back.
Alright, so yeah, my one's changed nick of time, so rather than getting every effect I get a bonus, it says increase your impact by 1.
So that brings us to extended tasks, because extended tasks used challenge dice as well. Rather than using challenge dice, we are in fact using the rating of the discipline or department that you used to try and overcome that extended task. So, for instance, if I'm looking at Edwards right now and we were doing some kind of extended task to do with engineering, then rather than rolling a number of challenge dice to see how many you actually got, we would go off of your actual engineering score of 5. And something like in the nick of time gives you an extra 1, so it would go from 5 to 6. Simple as. Focuses remain pretty much the same. They work exactly the same as they did before, so nothing new there, you will be pleased to hear. Not every award was represented in the new rules, so some of them have been my best guess in trying to stay to the feel of the second edition rules. Most of you have got pretty much standard awards, mind you. You'll all
Got
be
the
very
most important one.
Well, yes, Legion of Honor works the same. You'll be very glad to hear. So those of you who've got stockpiles of that award will know that it still works. It still works the same. It's all good. It's all
So
good.
that was put him in a sock and turn him into a custom weapon.
Well,
And wasn't Nova making a chainmail version of a uniform out of them?
that's entirely up to Sean. Nova's next science project.
No, they're just in the jacket like a Pokemon badge.
It's not a jacket anymore, I can tell you that. It tinkles too much on its way past. There was one more thing. Let me think. What
You
was
think
it?
he's about to sell someone a dodgy watch or something? So open the coats. You want a badge?
Other things. Right, equipment. Equipment doesn't work much different than it did before. I mean, equipment from before, unless we were talking weapons, didn't do much anyway. They were just there, and they gave you the ability to justify using abilities and making advantages for yourselves. They're more or less the same thing. Now, they only gave a small rundown of items, pretty much like the standard ones you expect, the communicator, the tricorder, and anything else is going to be dealt as a trait from here on in. Second edition rules is very much leaning more towards what those of you who are familiar with the fate rules would be more acclimated to. So pretty much anything can become a trait, and so tools that you'll be using that aren't necessarily represented by the bog standard tools that we get can be represented by traits that only last as long as we need them to in regards to that equipment. Big difference with weapons is that rather than rolling challenge dice for damage, they have set damage, and you can increase or decrease damage by doing things like making your own traits, or by spending momentum usually to up the damage of whatever it is you're doing. Mostly it's going to be via momentum. The thing to look out for here, actually, is the big one, which is values. Now, I've already semi-prepared you guys for this change by asking you to keep track of when your characters use their values in order to spend a point of determination. That continues, because I was gearing up for you guys to join second edition rules. Now, the big thing I want to draw your attention to is that everybody who has values starts the game with 1 determination. You don't start with a full bar of 3. You start with 1. Your maximum determination is still 3, but you need to get determination points back, and there are ways of doing this fundamentally, and this is again where it draws parallels to fate rules. One of your values is recommended to be something that causes trouble for you, so that if you use this value to cause a bit of difficulty for your character, that's a way of gaining a point of determination. There is another way of gaining a point of determination, but that one, I have to confess, the wording is a bit strange and not that specific. So I'm going to do my best with my interpretation of it, but nevertheless, the point still stands. The values that your character currently has, if you already think one of the values that you've got can be used as a means of making life difficult for your character in some way or other, by making certain things more challenging, like, I don't know, like a social situation more challenging, or certain points of view that this value does not agree with and therefore brings you into conflict with, that's the kind of thing we'll be looking for. So, I would like you guys to have a look over your values and see if there aren't any in there that you think might be either a good way of turning it against your character in some fashion, just like I said, to make things a little more complicated for you, so you can earn a determination point.
That's easy.
Or if you think one of the ones you've already got is a good one, and you think you're pretty confident in your ability to keep the values you've got and use them as a means of making life difficult for your character, then that's fantastic. That'll do nicely. But do have
Can I tweak one of mine then?
Sure. Which one were you thinking of?
I was thinking of swapping hold the line for something of the rule book is the first line.
If you think that'll do, then I'm fine. I'm happy with that.
Well, it definitely means rather than kind of like it has to be now the line of we have to follow along what the protocol states.
And that tracks with what we've seen of Andrew so far, I think, in that, you know, she knows sometimes the line has to be crossed, but more often than not, she's very much trying to keep protocol alive. The rule books are there for a reason. And what else would you have to slap around Vibers and Nova with? I mean... So that's fine with me. If you want to change that value to be the different wording, I'm fine with it. Go for it.
How do I know that that's meant to be my troublesome, or is it just more like just designated to you?
It's up to you how you want to make it work for you. So it'll be basically you guys. I mean, to a degree, as long as they are there on your list of values and I think I can use them against you, I might well do. And if I do use your values against you, I will bring it up and say, you know, this kind of is warring against your current value of X. So until you resolve X, I'm going to say it's more difficult for you to do something in a certain situation, perhaps, as an example. I hope that's clear enough, or do you need me to try and go over that again?
That's clear. I don't know if it's like highlight specific one or not. Because I just realised, I think 3 out of my 4 you could use against me easily.
But if you also have the freedom to use them against yourself, is what I'm saying, in order to try and use it as an excuse to grab a point of determination. They do it in Fate a lot. If you can make the situation difficult for your character, then you might...
Trouble aspect.
Yes, thank you. You can get in trouble, but it gets you a bonus point.
I'm changing my hard-working to needs of the ship.
Okay.
Because that means I'm going to trip over the crew versus the mission versus the ship, and that could be a nice one to trip over.
Alrighty.
I mean, you could finally link it into your habit of getting contraband. It's like, I owe someone money.
No, I get contraband for the needs of the ship. It keeps the bartender happy, which keeps the crew happy, which means they do their jobs better.
Yes, but if they're too drunk, there'll be a detriment, they'll be damaging the ship.
And this is what causes conflict.
This is why it's simple, so no one can get drunk. Haha! See your loophole plugged. That's what Vibers thinks.
That's why I'm porting real stuff.
Okay.
Can I change one of mine in that case, Matt?
Sure.
Yeah. I'm thinking, first for knowledge, I was trying to think to myself, does that work as a good trouble aspect? And I don't think it does.
Okay.
It kind of contradicts Bertram's sort of long-held thing about how science should never rule over people. So I'm thinking maybe scrapping that and putting it something like and then sort of like people or social, sort of like social interaction, the eternal mystery or something like that. Because I think it's been occasionally remarked on that he doesn't really socialise or get other people on that sort of level.
Okay. Sounds reasonable to me.
Thank you. I'll change that now.
If we're going along the list, Jan, I don't know, a couple of Caval's ones can be made to cause a good bit of conflict or tension.
Yes, I think my second value is maybe pretty useless. I don't think I've ever used it.
Dynamic situations need to be mastered. I think we've used it once or twice, but yeah, looking for adventure has usually superseded it. I think.
So I can see how the first one, the keep only the best editions, can be used, and
Yes.
looking for adventures definitely. Maybe even the fourth one, but I don't know about my second value. Is probably not really useful in any way.
Okay, so have a think about what kind of thing you might like to replace it with, and we'll be good to go. As long as you're okay with that. Have a think, just have a think for the moment. Nova, well, I'm pretty sure Sean can think of some way of making any of these work. I mean, Empathetic Orphan as a value has always worked pretty well when it comes tagged with anything to do with the empathy, so that's fine. And Nova's ability to get into trouble all on her own.
I think a button base keys only useful for either.
So they still all pretty much work for me.
Yeah.
So I'm good with leaving those as. Mike's not here, so we can't talk to him about his Orion's values for the moment, so we'll leave that for the time being. People person could be used against him once or twice, and Alex is already pretty much gone on that one. So, yes. That's the first of our changes. Changes. So we've gone over most of the important stuff. Like I said, the thing to do with how milestones work now is a lot different, and some of it probably needs to have the wording made a bit more clear. But overall, it seems to be that if you use any of your values during the course of an episode, make a note of it, the episode number or the star date or both, and which value you used at that point, and that'll give you the ability to basically earn the ability to change things around like you did with a minor milestone. In order to gain the effects of something like a medium or a large, you need to during an episode where you use a value, you need to be able to call back to a previous episode where you use the same value, and you then have to describe how that callback is influencing your actions now. So this is what they call a callback. This callback lets you refill a point of determination. So, one more time, if you're using a value, to spend a point of determination, you can essentially get that point of determination back as long as you are referencing to a time when you used this value in a previous episode. That's not the clearest thing in the world to me, so I hope that's not too confusing for you guys. But in order to get a higher kind of milestone, actually no, I stick by the previous one. So as long as you make a callback to another episode where you use that value in some fashion, this grants you a milestone on the episode that you called back. But it won't let you raise any attributes above 11 and no departments above 4, and you can't do anything new with the ship. If you want to do that, according to the rules, which is making me confused even saying it, you need to then reference back to the time where you referenced back to the time before. So, like I said, I'm not going to go into that one too much at the moment because it is terribly confusing. But, essentially, you guys are going to be asked to keep a bit more of a log of what you do, more or less in regards to your values and their use. So when you use a value on an episode, make a note of it. usually in regards to using determination, but if you do use or challenge a value during the course of an episode, make a note of it and the when, so that if you do use that same value again later in some fashion and think that the situation is very similar to one we've had in a previous episode, then you can call back to that previous episode and we can make a special note of that, and that earns you a bigger kind of character advancement option. Again, we're probably going to have to run through this a couple of times before we get used to it, if we get used to it. And this is the most salient point I want to make. We're trying the second edition stuff out for now. If there's stuff we think we don't like, is too confusing, or just doesn't feel right and we don't like the way it works, then don't feel that we're locked into this. We can always turn back. Because this is as much about whether or not you like the new rules as about me trying to adjudicate it as well. So, right. That huge amount of information I've just bombarded you with, we'll kind of let settle for a moment. The only thing I really wanted to get you used to the idea of is having at least one value that can be maybe trouble for you in some fashion. And that's the thing that's going to enable you to get determination points back, because otherwise we start with just the one. Stress works pretty much the same as it did before, you just have less of it. Unless, of course, you're Andrews, who's got all the stress track in the world. Because it actually goes off of your fitness rating, rather than fitness and security this time. And you can get bonuses to your stress track according to talents that you have, and certain other things. So regular folks, for the most part, will have a stress track in or around probably 8, 9-ish. And this will also affect how supporting characters work, but once again, I don't want to bombard you with too much. So for the time being, we will push supporting characters to one side for a bit, and we will just concentrate on what we've got in front of us. So, any questions, comments, or concerns before we get cracking? Because the only way we can be sure we get any of this is to actually try it out, and that includes me. So, any questions you want to ask before we carry on? Anything I didn't go over that you spotted something and you think you want to highlight?
Since that one's new, does hello count as that?
Ooh, good question. I'm still technically counting Hello as like a supporting character for the moment.
Alright.
I see no reason not to, because even though Hello was kind of a science project, it also wasn't. So I'm definitely keeping Hello as up for keeping Hello as a supporting character. So yeah, nothing much has changed about Hello at all. The only thing that changed was the talent machine, which in the first edition rules granted you, depending on what level of machine you were, it granted you a level of like internal armor based on the fact that you were not so squishy. But they've taken that away now, and so Hello doesn't have like natural resistance, but still has the usual advantages of being a machine, which is doesn't breathe, can't be poisoned, that kind of thing. So for the most part, Hello has stayed pretty much the same. The two talents we gave it, Universal Systems Interface and Remote Unit, still apply because we made those especially for it, so there was no reason to take those away. And so, yes, that brings us pretty much... Yeah, go on.
I was thinking maybe I should change my value to challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. Ooh, I like it. Yeah, because I've never known Mr. Thaznan to back down from a challenge. And that could be one of his weak points, yeah, if someone calls him a chicken and he feels compelled to prove him wrong. I like it. Do it. Edit the value, change it to that, and we will be fine. I like it.
Alright, Marty McFly. I mean, he likes to drive fast as well. Doing 88 in a 30.
I'll let you know, as an intense Andorian, if I give the Game Master threat, I get a bonus momentum.
There is a lot more stuff now that involves using threat, and there's a lot of momentum expenditure that happens now. Certain things cost less momentum than they did before, I think because they are now allowing momentum to take more of a front seat to the kind of things that you can do. So there's a lot of momentum expenditure now. I do recall that in the early days of 2nd edition there was going to be not exactly a bottomless well of momentum, as in there wasn't a top cap. I think they extended the top cap, but they seem to have reversed it right back down to 6 again because, well, player characters can and should reduce a lot of momentum, but they want to introduce this idea more of threat points and momentum points getting spent a lot more and accumulated a lot more frequently now. So yes, there are lots of ways now that you guys can give me more threat, and there are lots of ways that you can now spend momentum to give you stuff. Whew. So I'm going to take us now to the bridge. Now, the first thing I'm going to point out is that some of your supporting characters here on the bridge have no stress bars anymore, and certain of them that do have stress bars have got half-filled stress bars. There is a reason for that. I won't go too much into it, but needless to say, supporting characters have changed so that they are not too close to main characters in the way they act and are statted anymore. So, yeah, certain characters who have... Basically, it all comes down to values. If one of your supporting characters doesn't have a value, they have no stress track whatsoever. If they do have a single value, they get half a stress track. If they have more than one value, they get a full regular stress track as if they were a main character. So, this very much gives you a very visual way of seeing... how far along some certain supporting characters are than others, which I think is very interesting. But we won't concern ourselves too much with that. So, before we move into science projects, any more questions?
Why do we all have one determination?
I just went over that.
You literally spent an entire section on that, Alex.
I'm joking.
Sorry, your joking voice was very similar to your normal voice, so I couldn't tell.
My character sheet, my update on the focus didn't transfer across from the home page, landing page.
Let's have a look.
Yeah, same.
Same with my value.
Oh, is the one on the front... No, the one on the front isn't tied. Let me take... Ooh, if I do that, that's going to override. Okay, I'm really sorry about... You're going to have to do that again, I am afraid. I'm very sorry about that. I didn't realise the tokens on the landing page weren't linked. Let me check that.
I can't even remember what I wrote now.
Oh, sorry, I could have told you. I just linked
new
it.
focus.
Never mind.
Sorry, new focus. So remember the focus.
Very sorry about that. That was my mistake. And yet Nova's is. Nova's was already tied in.
Those Jeffrey tube axes.
Yeah. As was Edwards. So yes, definitely the Jeffrey's tube access.
There we go, slightly different rewording. So the first action should be by the rules, is the value, and I've added in a different one by consequence as a focus.
Yep. Which fits. It fits what we've been through so far, so that's nice. Traits remain more or less the same, so the fact that you have the cyborg trait and that Fazanan still has the prosthetic eye trait hasn't changed. They didn't have the talent for physical enhancement in the second edition, so I went with the best interpretation I had available to me. Hopefully that's still more or less in the spirit of what it was before with rolling challenge dice. So your physical enhancement arm talent wasn't in the second edition rulebook or the supplement that came after it. It might well be in future ones, you never know, but that's my best interpretation of it so far. If it comes along and I got it right, then we're hey. If it comes along and I got it wrong, then we'll change it. We shall see. But, any more questions, comments, or concerns, or notifications? Righty. Then let's quietly get on with having a look at where we left our science projects. In the second edition rulebook, they left out the entire section on the scientific method. Pretty much because they are using extended tasks for a lot more now, and as such, I am currently uncertain as to whether or not I want to move the way we've been doing science projects using extended tasks. So I think I will keep that as we have been doing so far. One thing I will note is that assisting is now slightly different, insofar as we still have the same maximum of 5 dice to a dice pool to use. And they've changed it now so that the first assistant that you have on a roll is free, but every other helper you get thereafter requires a momentum spend to bring them on board. So, we'll be trialing that out in order to see how that goes. Now, obviously, at the start of an episode when you've got no momentum pool, this makes this kind of thing a bit more difficult, but it also kind of brings us down on how long it takes to put a team together to do a scientific project with. So, I don't know, would you rather keep, like we did before, with just bringing on as many assistants, because it is a downtime action? So would you rather keep the old method of just having as many assistants as you need to fill the 5 dice limit, or do you want to try using the assistance limit that they've used in the rules? The new rules.
Can we use threat to add the assistance? Because then we can still add assistance.
If you give me threat, it gives you momentum. You can exchange giving me threat to give yourselves momentum, essentially. If you want to do it that way. And far be it for me to turn away threat.
I think that sounds reasonable.
So which way sounded reasonable, Sean? The leave it as is, or
threat.
The threat? Okay.
Yep.
And anybody else would like to put their vote forward? Hey. Then we will
Cutting edge. Cutting edge science is also bleeding edge science.
I like what you did there. Okay. So if we're going with the limit, then it's basically choose your science partner and choose wisely. So the last ones we were doing were Dr. Bertram and his use of trying to create a biological EVA suit. We've gone through biotech, xenobiology, and we're currently on genetic. We're making a start on genetics this time.
Yep.
Now.
Okie dokie.
Ori has genetics, if you want to borrow Ori.
Mike,
else got
are you alright
genetics?
with me borrowing Ori? He didn't say no.
You didn't take the ball gag out.
For that comment, I'm going to have Alex be Ori for this one then. So with genetics, this is going to be reason and medicine. So Ori is rolling 1 dice with focus, and other folks, Bertram is using himself. Ooh, this does bring up a point. Actually, no, I will get to that when I get to that. Because now you've got less determination to play with at the start of an episode, so...
Yeah. I don't think that Bertram would actually burn determination. He might need one to save someone's life later. And he has a value of think of the long term, so he's more likely to take the longer route. So I will not use determination.
Okay, so you've rolled 2 successes. Alex, if you could roll me for Ori, please. That's another success. That's 3, not bad at all. So good starting headway there using genetics. Makes sense. You do have to probably genetically alter things to work, different plants and organic materials to work in tandem to create what you want. One of them's going to be the overall shell of the thing, one of them's going to be producing the atmosphere inside of this sealed environment, etc. So, makes sense. So far, interesting. Okay, cool, that's 1 done. We've managed to do holographic torpedoes, we've managed to do sound mines, we've now got the non-lethal shock stun Ushantor. Val Fazanan's answer to the lethality of the traditional Ushantor, create a non-lethal variety. So, who would you like to be your study buddy on this particular science project?
Gareth.
Well, what are we? What direction are we currently pursuing?
Where's current? Hand-to-hand combat.
Let's see.
F does have hand-to-hand combat.
I'm happy to join in if you want me.
I think I'll rope in the captain on this one.
Alrighty.
And
This is going to be.
I think-
This is the stabby
Go on,
end.
sorry.
This is the not stabby end.
I think just for the heck of it, I'll give you a threat so that we can bring in somebody else
Okay.
as well.
Worthy of being
Claude.
sent to Stovercore.
I think Claude seems he wants to do it.
Alrighty. So Claude. So can I have? I mean, Davis, you came up with that idea, that thing there for Keth, so you could be Claude.
Okay, and take off Fret.
I mean, I took
Have
a
you
threat
just seen
for
what I
it,
put
so
up?
may as well be the one who can give me more.
Fret, please. Very well. Give him Fret.
Oh, I thought you said treat, even though they don't sound the same.
What am I rolling for?
Reason and security,
Claude?
please, for both Claude and Andrews, and Fazan.
Can I use fitness? Can I use fitness and security?
Not for a scientific experiment. No, you're trying to reason
Well,
through
it's
these
sort of
things.
like it's wielding the knife and sort of like this is how you.
Yeah, but you're trying to create it, so you're trying to reason out how it works.
There's a way we can use the captain's
Stab
fitness.
Yeah, this is the stabby end. We don't stab with the stabby end. We stab with the blunt end.
And that sounds like
Also-
reason to me. Sorry, go on.
Nah.
Jan.
Also, if we test it on the captain, the shock effect, that would be fitness and security, maybe.
Is it using focus or using dedicated focus?
Now, this is the thing. I'm pretty sure dedicated focus is like the talent. If I can find it. Dedicated focus. Was that an NPC thing?
Did we bring Claw into this as well?
We are bringing Claude into this. He's already rolled.
I thought it was Kef we're bringing in.
No. Claude was volunteered, and Jan wanted Claude and paid the threat for him, so bring him in. There you go. See, the captain's got reason going, so you haven't used her as a zap test dummy yet. Emphasis on the yet. Oh God, so danger. Oh, yeah.
I would like to point out that as an intense Andorian, because I gave you threat, I get 1 extra momentum.
Very well put. I like it. Do it. Look at that.
Oh, sorry.
Now,
I should have rolled 2 instead of 3 because the 1 threat was to bring Claude in.
aha. So that's actually 3 successes, but it's 5 in total, so that's actually pretty good. 5 in total. Okay, so you have reached the end of this particular study, and your analysis so far is that anything you are going to make is going to be somewhat cumbersome, more cumbersome than the regular Ushantor, because it's going to be heavier, because it's going to need a power pack. So hand-to-hand combat has given you some interesting information, since you've all reasoned out how the thing is going to have to move, how it's going to have to feel, what kind of how lightweight it's going to need to be, the kind of the points of impact, that kind of thing, but it's not what's needed to finish the project. So the remaining fields of investigation you have left are let's see, experimental tech, electrical engineering, metallurgy, and anatomy. So which one would you like to go for next time? I can read those out again if you want.
I think metallurgy.
Metallurgy. Have a look at that next time then. Alright then.
Maybe we can...
So, go on.
Maybe we can compensate the power pack weight with a lighter weight material.
Maybe. Okay, Ori was going to do his own one, so rather than have Mike miss out...
Too bad he can't just have something that sort of like stores up just kinetic energy and then releases it once it hits critical mass.
Not to say that that's not possible.
A generator. Because... So you basically just need a battery and something to release it rather than a full generator.
Okay. Our science officer said he might be missing in action next week as well, so just in case he misses the entire episode, depending on how long this goes on for and what else, I will tag an assumed number of minimum possible successes to go along with that, as if he had, not to do him out of the ability to do it. If he comes back before we finish this episode, then fine, I can try and remember to get him to roll on his attempt to introduce 3D holographic interfaces for all the consoles. Until then. Okay. Anyone else want to begin their own new science experiments, or are we all good for science for now? Sounds like we're all good. Okay, so not bad at all. Cool. Okay then. So, rolling back, this is episode 45. We are on stardate 50862.9. This episode takes place 2 weeks after your last episode, where you made successful contact and communication with the race known as the Hyptic, who are the reptilians who are able to communicate via touch rather than verbally. And you also discovered an anomaly being potentially caused by the Tilical trying to get out of their prison realm, had caused the problem with their star. So 2 weeks have gone by since that particular incident, and the Navis finds itself back at Narendra Station. So, to the Galleria we go, as you have not long docked the ship from whatever patrol mission you were doing before, and Admiral Hebert is meeting the command staff at the very least, except for Orion, who has to stay behind and manage a few things. Admiral Hebert has asked you to, well, is meeting you at the disembarkation dock and is basically walking you through the Galleria while she apprises you of the current situation. So, everybody good with starting, or do we have any more questions, notions, or stuff that we need to get through before we start things officially?
I feel bad for saying that I had to change the value again.
Okay, that's fine. I like. But
yeah, it's not synced across again.
Good God, it's not synced, is it? All right.
Yeah.
Let me take that out, take these guys away then, so you don't have to do it all over again. Let me check. All right then. Where are the ones you did just do? Here. It's entirely probable that, yeah. Okay. What I need to do then is... Right, talk amongst yourselves for a minute then while I correct my error, because it turns out when I made new characters in order to make them using the 2nd edition rules, the tokens did not automatically have themselves linking, so I am going to correct that little problem now by re-examining the values that you guys changed and copying them over. So you chose that one to be this one. It was just values you all changed, wasn't it? There wasn't anything else.
I changed one
focus. That's right. Thank you for reminding me. Otherwise I would have forgotten. There it is. Lovely. Let's change that. Right, so does that match now? Check, 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 check. Right. Let's link actor data. Chonk. As a default, is this one linked? It is not. So if I link it, it should be the same. Linked. Open up. It is opening that one. It's not treating it as different. Good, good, good. All right. Next. Vibers. Oops, a buttercup. What was that? That one's the one on the bridge. This one's the one in the actors list. Cool. What's difference? 3, 6, steady, hardworking. Navis, you didn't change any of your values, did you?
Yes, hardworking got changed.
Not seeing it on the one on the bridge. Let's check the one on the landing page. No, that's got steady hands again.
Steady hands are still there. It's just hardworking got swapped for needs of the ship.
That was it. Technical difficulties, folks. We'll be back with you when we can. Needs of the ship. Right, that is at the base level. Link actor data as default. If I open you now, that opens that one. And if I go to the bridge, that one has that too. Nice, nice, nice. Okay. Cabal changed his to challenge accepted. Shadonk, shadonk. Nothing else was changed, was it? Check, check,
Nope.
check. Alrighty. Check and check. Yep, that stayed, so we're gonna link you as default. Link this guy. Now when I open this, it should be that one. Nice. Okay, another one done. Bertram. One you just changed. Ego and socialization. that was all that changed, wasn't it?
Yep.
Excellent. Linked as default. We link the one on the bridge. And it opens that one. Nice. Next. Edvardo. We didn't change any of yours, did we? Did we?
No?
Edwards' is automatically linked, just like Nova's is. Okay. Again, there's that whole Jeffrey's Tubes thing going on. Yeah, yours is linked as default. Weird. Ori hasn't changed anything yet, so that's fine. Groovy. Alright then, let's try that one more time. The cap. Diplomat by consequence. First action should be by the rules. There we go. Commander V-Bells. Commander Thazanan. Dr. Bertram. Lieutenant Edwards. Lieutenant Nova. Okay. Try that again, shall we, kids? Alright, so Admiral Hebert meets you at the disembarkation area and starts walking you through the area. The first thing you notice is that there is a new security scanner in place for everybody to go through as soon as they disembark from the Navis. So even the Admiral has to go through it, and it gives her an up and down scan, and then a pair of security officials give her the thumbs up or the thumbs down. Of course, they give her the thumbs up, and the rest of you are encouraged to go through it one at a time. This does mean that disembarkation and embarkations will be a little bit slower as a result, but if this is the price you pay for extra security. So, the Admiral starts walking and talking, and you guys are pretty much keeping up. With the situation with the Dominion starting to get seriously heated over in the Galactic West at the moment, we're having to, by mandate from Earth, implement new security features just to make sure that changelings aren't getting on board by not only imitating crew but also equipment. Means that most of everything we do is going to take that much longer these days as a result, but, well, these security checks are necessary to keep things safe. So, we're also going to be more regularly monitoring ingoing and outgoing communications, which means that security checks have to be performed on all communications, and therefore these protocols, at which point she hands Andrews over a data, not a data slate, that's the wrong franchise, Matt, a data pad with a load of, it's all the information on the new security procedures and all the equipment that's expected to be, you have to go through in order to actualize this. These are changes that need to happen on the Navis as well. Thank you, Gareth.
That's okay.
Andrews and the rest of the crew are looking really kind of worried at the new scanner, whereas Edwards just walks through like happily, like la 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 la.
He skips through as if skipping through a meadow. No,
The one human left.
the only human left.
The only human on the chain link. The only human
The
on the
last
chain link.
man standing.
He's only human on the outside.
On the inside.
His
Just
soul
giant
is
flesh
cold.
all over us.
Yes, where was I? Oh yes, so the Admiral's still appraising you of the situation. Communication protocols are of course having to be encrypted and are being heavily monitored, which of course is much to the delight of our current station our station security chief, Commander Dovelli. She's been petitioning for this kind of monitoring to happen for a long time. But you can't deny that it's brought results, because we have managed to catch our first spy, and the Admiral indicates to an entry on the datapad.
Please be Blackford. Please be Blackford. Please be Blackford. Please be.
It's not Blackman. Sadly.
Damn it!
It's not Blackford. It's
Claude!
it's not Claude.
It was
Is it
Claude.
Commander Andrews?
Yeah, Andrews is going out on a flipping rescue mission. He's been framed.
So, no, it is the picture of a human male, Caucasian, someone from wearing the operations colours, and it has his Starfleet bio, Lieutenant Carl Ferguson. Ferguson, just a maintenance monkey, usually charged with the upkeep of the station, had been caught on a number of occasions, apparently, doing maintenance in areas where there weren't actual work logs for those maintenance actions to be undertaken. He maintains his innocence, that it was some kind of glitch with the computer system, but unfortunately when we did start to investigate... oh, good old Fergie. When we did start an official investigation, we went through the station communication logs and actually did find encoded data packets going out with the daily and weekly reports that we usually send back to Starfleet. When we managed to find these encoded data packets, we actually used some of the deciphering codes that Lieutenant Edwards had managed to discover when you last hacked Orion systems. So it seems that our Lieutenant Ferguson was not sending information to the Dominion like we thought, or maybe even the Romulans. It turns out he was sending shipping information to the Orions, of all people.
Oh, fuck.
So, there we have it. Our first official double agent, spy, corrupted operations maintenance guy. We're not exactly sure. Ferguson keeps maintaining he's innocent, but, well, Commander Diwali is rather thorough in her investigation, and the new security powers have enabled her to do a very thorough investigation. So, all things point to this guy working for the Orions. Looks like they've been utilizing an operation not just in the Expanse, but also in other areas to try and hijack supply shipments that we get coming in or going out of this area. So that's at least something off of our minds. And with that, we start coming towards a very populous area of the Galleria. As you start hearing more and more multiple raised voices. Oh yes, continues the Admiral. Then there's this. This has been rather recent. Unfortunately, not everybody is happy with the recent security increase and additional security search protocols. Most of our civilian population has started, well, and she kind of indicates down the length of the corridor where you're currently at, towards a nearby area where, as soon as you guys get to around here, now that I've unpaused the game and given you active control over your characters again, when you come to this area where the noise of the protesters gets even louder, there is Narendra Station's security chief, or co-security chief, Lieutenant Commander Sardar Valley, standing with her arms crossed, just patiently watching. Her Klingon counterpart, Lieutenant Carvel, is stood just some steps south of her, but otherwise there are Starfleet and Klingon security posted at various different points around the protesters, who have all got placards and signs in various languages, but basically is stating the same kind of slogans about this being an infringement upon their freedoms. Now, before Nova gets to there, I'm going to backtrack here somewhat. Because I am going to ask for everybody. I just bring the Admiral along so that she's still giving a briefing while she's there. I don't know about these people. And the Admiral gives a very definite exhalation of frustration. You'd think they would have the common sense to be able to see that we're actually trying to keep them safe. And this is only while there's the Dominion threat going on. But apparently it's easier to vent your frustrations at the whole situation by protesting. Unfortunately, over the last couple of days, the protests have been getting more frequent and more people are joining, and now we have this situation. Lieutenant Davelli. At which point the security chief turns around. You've not had the privilege of meeting Commander Sar Davelli, pardon me, yet. She is a Zakdawn. One of the few Zakdawn in Starfleet, and certainly one of the few female Zakdawn you most see. But true to her race, she's got a reputation for being very, very quick mentally. Very, very tactical. Commander Davelli, says April Hubert. How's the situation? The commander, without even turning to face all of you, just continues watching as, even as Nova is kind of slyly making her way towards the people. Situation is starting to become a little bit tense, shall we say, Admiral. The people are becoming very aggressive. It's been increasingly so over the last hour. My officers so far have not had any trouble, but the crowd seem to be gradually turning their ire at my officers. It's so far not turned violent, but, well, and the commander just kind of gestures, because there are people, obviously, now that you're looking, who are they're definitely directing their ire towards the security personnel. Now, Nova, being a betazoid and an empath and basically an emotion junkie, the usual empathic sense that Nova gets when the Navis crew kind of dock back with the station is usually kind of one of happy relief, because everyone's home again, so there's somewhere that they can, you know, relax a bit maybe, and sleep somewhere comfortable that's not their quarters kind of thing. And so there's usually a palpable sense of relaxation, ease, relief. And so you usually come off of disembarkation of the Navis feeling pretty chill. But as soon as you get to the area near to these people, there's this definite sense of anger and an increasing level of hostility that's building up. And you are feeling it most intensely. So I would very much like you to give me a control and command check, please. I'm going to give you a point of determination for this, because I'm going to make it a difficulty 3 job, because Empathetic Orphan is going to make it very difficult for you to not feel what they're feeling.
She's going to feel it anyway, so I'm going to draw on the trait of head of morale.
Right.
So I'll choose to pay.
Choose to pay. Okay. So, Nova, you are feeling aggression. Intense aggression starting to build up. There's an intense feeling of frustration, there's anger, and there's definitely aggressive feelings. Which isn't helped by the fact that as soon as Nova gets to this point, the human security officer by here puts his hand up and basically stops her in her path. Hey, Lieutenant, there's no going past this area. We're trying to keep the cordon here. Do you mind?
And she's instantly going to like throw him over her shoulder. All wrestling style.
Alrighty.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to turn
As
some
soon as that, yeah, as soon as that happens, I'm going to rugby tackle right at Nova.
It's still quite loud. It's Tuesday. Alright, so there's going to be a what's it called? An opposed action here. So Nova is using daring and security, but the fact that the captain has noticed and wants to try and tackle means that Nova's ability to attack this guy is going to be incumbent on her generating more successes than Andrew's daring and security check. So this is our first opposed check, guys. Woohoo!
Advanced hand-to-hand combat as a foci.
If you want to go that way.
Oh, I've just got rid of hold the line as a determination as well.
Not making it difficult for you, so none of those
Oh,
players
no.
are going to get it. Ah, all right then. So Nova, who wants to go for this security officer, yeah. So Andrews comes in and tries to tackle her, but Nova gets an arm free and twists, and then does what she wanted to do. Basically, socks the security officer right in the mush. And because he wasn't expecting it, that means he doesn't get to do an opposed task, and which means you get to basically do an armed strike. So press an armed strike, please, for me, Sean. So an armed strike does 2 damage as normal. And is almost always a stun damage.
Set fists to stun.
So weapons in 2nd edition usually have one of 2 default settings. If they have both of them, you get to choose which one you want to do. They are either stun or they are deadly. If the weapon of choice has both stun and deadly checks, then you can choose whether or not to use it in a deadly or a stun fashion. So in this case, it is a stun-only weapon doing 2 damage and an NPC with no values and therefore no stress track goes down immediately.
He has value. He's a living being.
Whilst I'm dusting myself, whilst I'm dusting myself up off the floor, I'm going to then try and take control of the situation in front of the people and get Caval to drag Nova away.
Alright, I want... now then, you have got...
I've now got a different up by consequences of foci. And preservation of life is determination. I'm quite happy to spend value. I'm quite happy to spend that determination.
I am hesitant to get involved because I have greater good must acknowledge individual suffering, so I'm not really a fan of these security measures.
Ooh, nice! I will bear that in mind.
I want to go back. I want to go back to Gen 1 rules, like the crew not disobeying direct orders. It does. So woke crew now.
Guys,
so
I've seen a spoiler of how this thing ends.
Over here.
Captain's log. None of my crew are obeying me.
All crew.
I've not rebelled yet.
Where's Kef? Kef!
Right. I would like... interesting. I would like folks, all the main characters, you guys, except for Nova, who's already failed hers by choice, and I would like Andrews and Edwards and Vipers and Bertram and Fazanan to all give me control and command checks to do with keeping your cool and avoiding getting suckered into this highly aggressive atmosphere. The difficulty is going to be 1 for the most part, but any of you who have got values that you think put you at odds with what's going on,
That's
All right,
me.
Navis. So I'm going to make it a difficulty 2 for Fazanan, but I am going to give you a determination point for that. So.
I don't know if people in socialization, the eternal mystery gives me an advantage or a disadvantage in this point.
Bertram's just like, meh, it's not Mars.
I was actually going to say, can I use psychologist as a focus for keeping my cool?
Sure.
Oh, I'd love to see Bertram go wild.
Oh well, I've got 2 successes anyway.
So let's see, Fazanan
mine
got
went
the 2 he
slightly wrong.
needed. Edwards got no successes. Andrew's got the 1 success she needed. Viber's got 2, so 2 of you have added to the momentum pool. But Edwards,
Something I can use to re-roll.
you could turn
determination
Legion
is
of
what you use to re-roll.
I'm good then.
But Edwards, you are definitely feeling the aggression. This is everything that you hated about Starfleet and bureaucracy. Almost, this is them imposing their will on other people. So, I am going to say that I am going to award you a point of determination because this is against those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it.
God, you're all sycophants.
But the needs of Starfleet's more important.
That's what they would say.
Clearly they've learned from last time. They'll also be able to stop this. And stop
So,
treating people like this.
how Fazanan, Fazanan managed to keep his cool but doesn't agree with it, but Edwards was really feeling, because he can see civilians, just like him, who are now being corralled for expressing their views. So, how Edwards...
I did not say that.
I almost quoted it until I saw who actually typed it. So,
Yeah, I was totally hijacking his character.
You naughty, naughty.
Back to uncommissioned officer after this one.
So, I'm not saying Edwards automatically goes to try and hit somebody. I'm just saying that he's now he's now feeling.
He sided with the protesters.
Yeah, he's sided with the protesters essentially.
So, I think Cavell will move forward to try and restrain Nova, but on the way he'll be grumbling like, "Is this what we're doing now in Starfleet?"
Restraining Nova, yeah.
Yeah, you've not read the handbook, Cavell. For one.
It's what you've always been doing.
So, yes, with this,
I'm going to order my grumbling officers out of here.
So, yes, Lieutenant Carbell is rather upset over Nova, but Nova is still just basically spitting and fuming like she was, and basically saying, "You think you can do any better? You come have a go," kind of stuff.
If she's going to be like that, I will lamp her with my arm. Just break her jaw. But that's getting involved in the... No, that's what Webby would do. That's not what Andrews would do.
I've actually Andrew pummeling the crap out of Nova while going, "Please disperse, there's nothing to see here."
Stop resisting! Stop resisting!
This is hurting me more than it's hurting you.
Not with a bionic arm.
This is the only way you can learn.
I will beat the stupid out of you.
Which is when... Pause for Sirenscape. A massive explosion somewhere further down the Galleria erupts outwards, blowing smoke and debris everywhere, and that changes the mood immediately. The civilians all basically duck down for cover upon this massive booming wave that just roars out, and as dust and debris scatter as almost as a cloud obscuring vision, there's nothing but the alarmed cries of regular people as they are flapped to the floor. It's only the security officers and those of you who have kept your control thus far that managed to maintain any kind of composure. The shock of it, however, is enough to bring even someone like Nova, who was given over to the aggression emotion moments ago into snap her right out of her aggression, as a wave of shock just passes over everyone and everything in this area as the security folk start rounding people up, checking them over to see who's injured and who's not, and small alarms start going off in some places as folks start picking themselves up.
Bertram's immediately going in, looking for anyone who's been injured and needs healing.
Yep.
Yeah, same. It'd be a case of...
Everyone starts moving in, so yes. The place is covered. People are covered in dust and debris. Some civilians are the less injured ones are picking some of the injured ones up and are moving them in the nearest direction towards help. So those security officers who are now free can distribute themselves amongst those they need to. They have lost their aggression as well, so they are quickly trying to help those who need helping. And of course, Dr. Bertram and anyone with ranks of medical training will probably be needed to see if you can stabilize and treat folks. So,
sorry. As this is happening, I am scanning the crowd for anybody who does not look shocked.
Yeah.
Okay. That's difficult to do because there's so much debris in the air, but I will allow you to give me, anyone who wants to do that can give me an insight and security check.
Can I rather assist
Somebody?
on this one?
My insight's only 7, so...
Oh, okay, maybe.
My security's 5.
I'll take lead with an insight of 8.
Hello.
Hello! Vipers just pops up out of the crowd. He's like, I see everyone.
Before I go and help with that, I will check with the Admiral if it's okay for us to bring medical teams over from the Navis to assist.
Absolutely, Commander. Go and do it. Go see to it.
So,
Okay.
Davis, what is your insight and security?
9 and 5.
Why have you got higher insight? Kamal.
Oh, I don't have a good insight.
Yeah, Kamal and Andrews just sit there. They're just like they're not the most observant cookies. We're really good at security. We're just not very observant at it.
Oh, what your insight and security? Level 3.
Yeah, I think you might need a... Edwards is probably your man.
Edwards has got 11 insight, 3 security, so yeah. Obviously, an empath like Nova can also help because, I mean, it's going to be somewhat overwhelming with the emotions of shock and panic and fear. But if she can concentrate, she might be able to try and pick out somebody who's not registering those, just like the others are trying to physically see if anybody is not acting shocked, so...
Sean is dealing with a sick cat, though.
I see, okay.
So, what was that? Insight...
Insight and security. Any observational-based focuses based on behaviors are a good one.
I mean, for that, I could use battlefield tactics potentially as that.
Okay, I won't say no to that. I'm going to make this difficulty. I'm going to make this difficulty 1. 2 successes. Okay, so... oh, hello. Andrews. Nothing happened, no one saw a thing.
I didn't punch the security guard when he's on the floor. It's like, do a better job.
Keth, get med teams 1 and 2 over here for triage and incident state documents. Keth's response, me? Why not Nurse Bravo?
Nurse Bravo could have said it, but who's the one sitting on the bridge at the moment in the chair?
Why did
Not
we
me.
on the chair?
It's Kev. We
It's
wanted to be in charge of the ship while we went on it.
You see, I would have thought that the chain of command now would be Turin or Claw. No, it's Kev.
Can I just say, In my mind's eye now, there's like 5 or 6 Orion spies just walking down the corridor past Vibers, who's just on his community badge going, Kev, stop whining and send the medical team down.
Just all just trying to blend in. Vibers has got no
They're not
attention.
blending in. They just want 2 of them stop and literally do a selfie next to Vibers, who's yelling at Kev.
It's like, Kev, do it, Kev. Kev.
What in Stovercore are you getting me to respond to medical emergencies for? Fine!
Kevin's gonna
This will be
hate
how a
it.
Klingon does it, by the way.
We put our Klingon as second officer when we don't want to do the job. Just left him.
Change his name to Dog Spotty and be done with it.
No, that's Jude.
Yeah,
No, you know how every
really
ship
is.
has to have a Tom Paris who's great at everything and gets no respect? I think we found ours.
I think it's Kev.
No, we've got Jude. We've got Kev and Jude.
No, the Tude can only do one thing, and he cultivates not getting any respect deliberately.
Okay. Navis medical teams can indeed be sent to alert, so...
Yeah, but they've got to go through the bioscanners.
But this is an emergency, and it does say on the security protocols, in the event of a life and death emergency, then security things can be wavered.
No, I just want someone dying next to the bioscanner, like, eh. The security team's just having to wait to go through.
So why is no one helping me?
It's like, I'm trying to get through the security. Oh, I'm
You just
sorry,
got the-
sir, but there's some liquids in your bag. That's my Medigel. That's what they all say, sir.
You just got this bored person who goes, Sir, I understand you've been stabbed in the heart, but your complaining will not make this procedure go any faster.
I could have sworn you said
We
Borg
got
person
staff
rather
at
than poor
TSA.
person. So my mind went in a completely different place then. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Okay, so you guys are first on the scene, so you are first responders to this emergency. So, the Bertram,
Yep.
you are trying to see to folks, so let's get a control and medicine check out of you with your focus on. Let's go with xenobiology, because you're going to be taking everybody's different biology into account as you are looking at injuries. I'm going to make this difficulty 2 for you, because this is not an easy situation. There's a lot of obstruction
I
due
am
to
a
debris.
decorated Starfleet surgeon.
You are indeed. So you may reduce the difficulty by 2 to a minimum of 1. Okay, you've reduced it down to 1. Nicely done. Nicely done. This is why he is the Chief Medical Officer. 3 successes.
These successes.
1 point.
I'll build up our momentum.
Alright. In the meantime, Edwards and his insightfulness. Edwards was keeping an eye out, just trying to see, like the others, to see if anyone was acting not surprised. But pretty much everyone is reacting exactly how you would expect. But the place that you've noticed seems to be the epicenter of the explosion is where the main security office was. I say was, because there's definitely just smoke coming out of where the security office door used to be.
Captain, permission to examine the remains of the security office?
At
Well, if
which
that's
point,
the area of the if that's the area of the blast, then yes.
Commander DeVelli at that point overhears this and goes, "The security office? You better come with me then, Lieutenant." Hubble, you too. As she calls on her security head. So, guys, we're going to be heading to the security office.
Kaval, could you please join me? You're better at identifying things like associated with weaponry and stuff like that, so you might be able to identify what kind of explosive created or did the damage.
Did you call him Caval?
Commander, sorry.
My buddy Kev.
Don't worry, Ensign. You're forgiven.
Is he?
I swear I thought it said Commander Cavell. I swear I thought it said Commander.
I
Maybe
let it slide
Commander
this time
Azathoth.
due to the situation.
Sorry, Commander Azathoth. I was at Azathoth. Sorry, Alex
Commander
is falling over his word. Alex is falling over his tongue.
Commander Oh, I want to see you now as Azathoth.
It could also be what I noticed earlier with it cutting off the beginning of your sentences again. So
Let me tweak the sensitivity again.
yeah.
Clearly, the ensign is suffering a little bit of shock.
Okay.
As he
So,
could do. He has had something ramping up the aggression in the back of his head.
yes. You were all feeling
Okay,
it.
there we are.
He's just he's just giving in to the abolishing of the patriarchy of the Federation.
Patriarchy.
The proletariat.
Yeah. Sorry,
I was
proletariat.
going to say, that's a bit more accurate.
Down with the
Down with-
bourgeoisie.
I was going to say down with the
Mental
bureaucracy, but fair enough.
proletariat. That sounds like a really good plan.
Anti-bureaucratic.
All right. So Commander Thazanan, Lieutenant Edwards, Commander Sardavelli, and Lieutenant Carbol all make their way towards the security office. And sure enough, the closer you get, the more dense the debris becomes. And what once was the door of the security office has been blown clear free, which I haven't represented very well here, of course, but actually,
I was going to say, I thought there were cells.
I got you on
I was like,
entirely
did
the wrong
someone-
side of the map here.
I was going to say, did someone blow out the cells?
As it turns out, yes, they did. So when you do manage to make your way through the wreckage of what once was the doors to the area, you notice that, well, thankfully, because there were so many protesters out, the majority of the security office was empty of officers. There were a couple, and there are at least two of them lying very much dead amongst the debris. But of course, the other thing that you notice pretty much immediately is the fact that the cells on the other side are all empty. One of them in particular has had the entire back section of the wall completely blown out. But it looks
It's almost like someone's just someone is trying to get Ferg out of there.
That was about to be my question to the Lieutenant Commander Develli. Is like, apart from the double agent, was there anyone else in here, or was it just him? And was
No,
it his
there were
cell that was
others.
blown up?
Mostly petty criminals. Only one murderer, thankfully, we'd managed to catch. But it looks like they've all been broken out.
Are there any
basically
signs of
report back
organic
to
matter?
report back to the captain first, just let him know let her know what's just happened.
Yes, so let's go back to the Galleria for a moment.
We can all just hit the comm badge so you don't
Yes.
leave the room, but yeah.
Exactly. So, for the moment, I'm just
that was going to be a
to
thing. I'll just say, also quickly ask the commander to send descriptions of them to the rest of the Navis crew, because there might be some in the crowd.
So, needless to say, Admiral Hebert at this point has excused herself so that she can coordinate what's going on. So she's going back to her office to try and find out what exactly has happened, and to try and get other security forces. She's basically gone back towards ops, some floors above, in order to try and see if everything's all right up there. Meanwhile, you guys, being first on the scene, have been distributing yourselves amongst the wounded. Dr. Bertram, of course, has been coordinating with whoever's available to try and stabilize as many people as possible. Thankfully, it seems because the protest was going on the Galleria away from where the security offices were, it meant that, as I've already noted, the majority of there were a good many security officers present guarding the protesters or keeping them away from certain areas, which meant that the loss of life of those in the security office itself and nearby was minimized, thankfully. Likewise, because the protest was nowhere near the security office at the time, because they were obviously occupying a larger space, more public. The protesters themselves are largely uninjured, so what you're treating for majority is shrapnel wounds, as pieces of debris have been launched out. So we're talking glass, crystal glass, and all the various polymers and alloys that Starfleet and the Klingons use to create their building facades and whatnot. So majority of it's lacerations through glass debris flying around, but there's a couple of folks with respiratory issues because of the basically the pulverized stone or whatever that's been launched into the debris that's been launched into the air. That kind of thing. So pretty much the kind of trauma you would expect from an explosion. And the majority of the rest of you are helping in that regard, and it takes a little time, but the Navis the Navis medical teams start arriving to help treat folks. Likewise, Narendra Station's own medical teams start arriving, which does include the Klingon doctor, which would be Commander Naraya, if I do believe. So she arrives on the scene with her own emergency response team.
Does Vibers note that she gets there before Kef?
Kev wasn't sent here. Kev was just sending your teams.
Why didn't you go to Nurse Bravo?
So whilst Andrews and Nova and Vibers are helping out with keeping patients stable or moving them along into places where they can be helped, and as soon as the medical team start arriving, you can be relieved of your efforts at just keeping pressure on wounds and that kind of thing. That's when you get the communication from Edwards and Thazanan saying that a mass breakout seems to have happened.
Captain, in these circumstances, I think it makes sense for one of us to be on the ship. I'll return to the Navis and coordinate from there.
Okie dokie, I'm just going to move you off to that side then to represent you going off scene for the moment.
As Vibers runs off, thank you for thank you for being voluntold, Vibers.
Honestly,
I'll just sit away. Yeah. I can't just sit in my ready room and sip tea, you know. No.
I was here in the exit.
So. Before I forget, those who gained a point of determination from a value kind of rubbing you the wrong way, please feel free to make note of that. But that happened this particular time. I can give you the episode number and/or the star date again if you wish. I'd rather not give you the episode title because that might give the game away. But nothing that you won't figure out yourselves, but nevertheless.
It was the Vidians.
Blimey, I don't think it's quite that time in the canon, whatever yet, but I could be proven
We've already
wrong.
fought the Vidians once, haven't we, on this?
Is this the episode I saw in one of the books called Vibers versus Kef?
Vibers versus Kev, this random one.
After arriving on the bridge, Kev says he's never sitting that chair again, and I can't watch him.
So you beam onto the ship and immediately Kef stabs you and goes, I've had enough of you.
There can only be one.
As he approaches Vibers with the knife. Do you want to have to sit on the chair all the time? Disappears off to engineering.
I blew up the chair.
There's a small explosion on the bridge. Kev's just something like, no chair for you, Kev.
The chair was dishonorable.
Stupid humans.
Okie dokie. In either case, I was going to make a point there, and I completely lost it now to mirth. Yep, it's gone.
Was it about discipline and values?
Oh, Vidians. Correct me if I'm wrong, those of you who know more Trek lore than I do. Weren't the Vidians the guys from Voyager who suffer from the phage?
Yep. So Voyager's not long.
Oh, sorry.
disappeared.
I was thinking the it is the Vidian. Oh God, the
The Vidians were the ones-
transphasic ones.
The transphasic ones.
Yeah, begins with V.
Ooh.
I'm sure they're the
Anybody in
Vidian.
chat who wants to jump in with who they think Webby means, feel free to.
They're the ones that eat life energy, and they send
Oh.
the crew back to. They send the Enterprise crew back to the
I know who you mean.
1890s
It's
when
not
they meet
Vidians. I'm not sure it begins with a V. It was.
Davidians.
Thank you.
Yes, it was the. Yeah, it's close.
I was going to say they. I remember it being like a religious group's name, like the Branch Davidians. The Davidians. There you go. And there are at least two of you who are called David here, and so you are also Davidians. So I try and remember it that way. Anyway, that's enough of how I remember things.
Oh dear.
They were led by the most evil Star Trek nemesis of all time, Mark Twain.
Okay. Anyway. Yes, right. So, those of you who are now having a potter around the place, so at least two of you at the moment are in the security office, so let's investigating. And the rest of you are now talking about the debris. So, yes, yeah.
I want to ask Commander Develli. Commander, can you verify that the armory has not been raided?
One of her eyebrows raise, and she kind of holds her finger up with, "That's a darn good idea," kind of gesture, and quickly runs to one of the consoles, but finds it inoperative and is busy rummaging through the wreckage, trying to find one intact.
Am I meant to be in that room, by the way? Just on the promenade outside.
Beg your pardon?
I don't know. I was switching back to the actual security office for
I
investigation.
can switch back to the security office if you really want.
I was just curious as if we were or not, if there was actually anything still important on that to look at.
So, Commander Develli is casting about for a console, any console that might give her a readout. At which point she just kind of gives up and races back towards one of the side rooms and just uses the emergency manual override to crank open the doors, and goes towards the back office and calls from out there, "The armory hasn't been touched. Everything's still here."
Would the starbase be going into lockdown now?
Well,
Because we are assuming that there is a prison break, so I am hoping that all of the turbo lifts are locking down, all of the
basically going on
docking rings. The docking rings locking down, etc.
I would like to examine this body. So I'm just looking at where the explosion was compared to where that body was close to the door. It just seems a bit odd that the explosion from there would have killed him, well, as close as he was. I just want to check to see if they were actually killed prior to the explosives. So just do effectively a scan for injuries.
Yeah. Control and medicine, please. You've got medicine 0. Whoops-a-daisy.
He's dead, Jim.
Very funny. I swear I thought I got something out there. Oh well.
You could, if you really, really wanted to, use one of your minor milestones to switch a value from one of your minor. Actually, it's going to be
No,
medium.
I'm happy to I'm happy to nab a momentum with permission.
Or use momentum in order to get more dice. That's a good idea as well.
Yeah, we're at 5. Might as well.
Medic, I need a medic over here.
2 successes. Very good. This man did not die from the concussive injuries one usually equates to being in the path of an explosion. You'd usually expect his innards to be kind of jellified from the impact of the blast wave, but no, this guy died from a disruptor burst. Was shot.
From which direction?
Well, he was shot in the chest, so whichever direction he was facing at the time, which would suggest from the way the body... well, it's difficult from the way the body is angled because it's been propelled by the explosion.
Because my Trekkie lore isn't the best, disruptor, is that a specific racial type weapon, or is it just basically a catch-all type thing?
Pretty species phaser.
Yeah, pretty much non-Federation. Klingons, Romulans, Cardassian. The Orions use whatever they can get hold of, so they do have a mix of disruptors and phasers.
Yeah, could. I guess there's gonna be no. Yeah, there's not gonna be no trace of any kind of energy. Would there be residual energy signatures potentially if the wounds are still kind of fresh?
You're going to have to do a very long and detailed examination because it's going to be mixed in with
everything else,
all the debris that's around the area. So it's not impossible. It will just take you time.
Yeah, we still need to do an analysis to see if we can determine what kind of explosives we used.
Yeah, I'll follow the commander's lead on this one. So. Might be something for Bertram once he's finished patching people up to look into, because he might be able to recognize it based off the actual wounds themselves, the specific patterns and burns. I was thinking maybe, or would that be a bit of a leap as well?
Identify
It'd be the other side of
explosive from blast damage. I mean, at the very least, getting Bertram.
No, I was thinking for the disruptor.
For the disruptor.
For the disruptor wounds. Tell what type of weapon it specifically fired to give us an idea of who might have done it. I was thinking I was just trying to think of another way of doing it for someone who's a lot more skilled than Edwards.
You're not wrong, but I think you have discovered the salient information.
Point. Okay, fair enough.
Anyone else who examines the body would come to the same conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Can we just check to make sure that none of the prisoners died in the explosion?
Well, absolutely you can. So, if you have a good old look, can I get Val in that case then to give me a... I'm going to ask you to give me an insight and security check, please. None of your focuses really apply here, so I'll just look. Pure talent. Ooh, hello. Okay, that answers my next question. Cha-ching. Okay, one success. Just from observation alone, you don't see any bodies in the cells, so that alone gives you clue enough that any of the prisoners, if any of the prisoners were in those cells and died during the explosion, they would probably more than likely be in there amongst the debris. And even if they weren't, and for some bizarre reason they were dragged off, you would imagine they would leave like a smear of blood behind, depending on the species, of course. But there's no such indication. There's no bodies, there's no blood trails that would suggest a dying or a dead person was dragged away for whatever purpose. So it definitely seems that the cells were empty and of living occupants. Or the occupants were living when the explosion happened, and they were still living afterwards. Ooh. Words. My words almost worked. I hope I got the right meaning conveyed. So it doesn't look like any of the prisoners perished in the explosion. Anything else anybody would like to do? Okay.
Was there any signs that at least the guards got a shot off? Or was it...
It doesn't appear so. Both the guards have got their weapons still holstered.
I was hoping then we could actually look for see if there's any DNA left by the attackers.
Any trace elements of maybe a gas, like a knockout gas?
Again, that would take a little time to scan for if you really want to have a look for it, because there's plenty of aerosolized debris around at the moment, which is slowly starting to settle. Any kind of gas would more than likely be evident amongst the debris particles if you really want to spend time to scan for it. Not saying it's a bad idea, I'm just saying it would take time. So you can still do it if you really want to.
I think we'll just maybe make a list of things that needs to be done, the sort of longer duration tasks. We'll make a list of those, and then station security can probably handle that while we move on.
Okay, cool. Speaking of moving on then, in that case I am going to take us to the bridge of the Navis, where Vipers is currently putting himself to. So I'm going to quickly chunk us over here. So obviously we've got Andrews is elsewhere. This is Canal. Most folks were disembarking. So not everyone's going to be about, but Edwards is elsewhere as well. So Ori was attending to things, so let's say Ori's available for the moment. Nurse Bravo and Nurse Teeth, obviously, as indicated there, are probably elsewhere dealing with all of that. So, Kath heading for the turbo lift as fast as
Kath's gone, I'm not sitting on the bridge any longer, go away.
So, when Vipers makes it back to the bridge, a couple of people are... some people are kind of half out of their uniforms, as it were, as if they were about getting ready to get their civvies on, but then everything went bananas, and so they've rushed here to the bridge. So, yeah. What would you like to do now that you are here on the bridge?
Okay.
Put his feet up and have an Erectogeno.
Well, apart from the Ractogeno that I picked up en route, I'm going to get Security Bravo and Natik to keep an eye on the ship. We want to make sure that none of the escaped prisoners get on board. If we can double check anyone who's arrived recently, and can we make sure we have security on the entrances?
Okay.
So ports got connected up. On top of that, I'm getting the... I'm just trying to think who's the right person for this one.
Find your buddy who might know who done this.
We might know who's done it, but the concern at the moment...
Yeah, the concern at the moment is the safety of the ship.
Yeah. The concern at the moment is safety of the ship and making sure that we're aware of what's going on around. So I'm making sure that Lenny and probably the science team with sensors out is keeping an eye on who's leaving and what's going on around the station, because if we're collecting all that information, we can look into it again later if anything comes up, and if someone's escaped and performing weirdly, we're going to want our shields up before we get hit.
Okay. So at the moment, it's making sure everybody's ready. You've got security teams guarding the entrance points, and you want the science team to basically keep an active eye out on anything that looks out of place, unusual.
Anything out of place, and keep a specific eye on anything leaving the station.
Leaving the station. Gotcha. Okie dokie. So, yes, your ship is still functioning, so you've got all the ability to do that at your behest. Now, this brings me to an interesting little point. about how things work now in 2nd edition with regards to supporting characters. Back when we were using 1st edition, we pretty much ignored the crew support number for the ship. It's entirely possible I misinterpreted the 1st edition rules, but it's just as likely that the 1st edition rules weren't clear enough. And so with 2nd edition, what they have said is that if you look at the Navis itself, if you want, I can zip us back to the landing page so you can see the Navis, unless you can find it in the actors list as per usual. Now, I have secreted away your characters, the actors, into a different folder. So under USS Navis crew and ships, if you can see that in the actors list, it's coloured now. I have separated 2 folders, 1st edition and 2nd edition. They should now be under 2nd edition. Can you see that?
Yep.
Cool. And you should hopefully find your characters there. So, if you can go under ships, you should see your ships, as well as the Navis. If you visit the Navis, you should see that it has a crew support rating of 6. That crew support rating is, of course, based upon the ship's scale. Now, rather than it being the number of supporting characters you're allowed, it's actually the number of supporting characters you're allowed to activate during the course of an episode, which I think works a little better. So we're going to try this out, and if we think it unfairly limits us in some way, then we can obviously revise it at a later point. But for now, you named Security Chief Bravo and Lieutenant Natik as just going off and doing something. That to me does not mean you're not using them at the moment. They haven't been activated, so I'm not counting that against the limit because they haven't taken part.
The security teams in places have not called upon. If they get called upon to do something, we can count them then.
So when we actively are going to use a supporting character to make a dice roll of some sort or anything like that, that is when we're going to check them off on the list of crew support that we are going to be able to use during the course of an episode. Everybody cool with that?
Yep.
Because I believe there are talents that commanding officers can get to increase the number of crew support you can have, and I think there may be ship talents as well that you can get. Like abundant personnel, I think, is one that Galaxy class ones have that allow you to increase that number of crew support again as well. So there are always ways of increasing that number, should we want to. But for now, the number of crew support is 6, and that is the number of active supporting characters we're able to activate at any particular point in time during an episode. So, with that in mind, bada bing, bada boom. Vipers and that lot are keeping an eye on things, so let's go back to Galleria. So, there was a question about Jan made, looking for the type of explosive. If you wanted to, that could be your next attempt to try and discern. So if somebody would like to scan the debris, especially of the prison cells, in order to try and detect any residuals of the explosive, then feel free to give me a control and security test. Anybody who's got foci that have got anything to do with chemical compositions or or weapon systems, that kind of thing, can give me.
I've got metallurgy. That's about it. Unless it's sort of a scrap-built bomb that's a hodgepodge, then experimental technology would be a
but
maybe.
We're looking for a chemical compound that's used to make an explosive, so it's more chemical than it is.
So just be
mineralogy.
Yeah, so.
Otherwise, it'll be a just plain old control and security test using a tricorder.
Who's better than? Has Caval got better than 11-3?
Yep. Well, 5.
Well, 5 indeed, yes. So, I mean, Edwards can still assist by all means.
Yep, I'm
You
happy.
get 1
to
free
do
assist,
that.
so that's no problem.
If you use a determination, I've now got an ability where we can burn 3 momentum to get you back.
So explain
As long
that
as
again,
you
Dennis?
say hi. As long as you say hi to the Navis, as in you're in communication with your XO, then when an allied character in communication with you spends determination, you may spend 3 momentum to enable that character to regain the determination.
Ah, you've got the XO roll now.
Yes, he does. Why wouldn't he? Okay, so we can assume open communications with the rest of the... Whoa, hello there. Nice.
I don't think I've really got a way to spend a determination in this situation.
Okay.
Also, after this, I have actually had the thought of how often do internal scans go off in the station.
Explain.
Surely it's got to be like just passive internal sensors that basically monitor what's going on.
Sure, absolutely. They're the equivalent of basically security cameras.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So, yeah, absolutely. Right, with the two of you working together, you scan the area around the cells, but also some of the area outside of the cells, and yes, a very common explosive, a triceron compound, was used in order to create the large shattering kaboom. But from the placement, it seems that stage 1 explosion was blowing out the backs of the cells, and stage 2 was then more explosives to basically explode the security station itself. This does mean that anybody who was within proximity of said explosion might have triceron particles clinging to them that might be dropping as they go. And the backs of the cells are open to the service tunnels behind. So that would be the most logical place for anybody who was being broken out of prison to go.
I guess report this to the captain as well as to the XO on the Navis.
Okay. So what would you like to do now? At the moment, Commander Dovelli and Lieutenant Carbell say they are going to be busy because they're going to need to round up their remaining security personnel and try and distribute them now amongst the station to try and find where all these escaped prisoners have gone.
Check security cameras.
If you want to get a hand on station security cameras, then or security readouts, then absolutely you can. If you want to have a quick look through them, then in that case,
the only issue being if they're in the service tunnels, there's probably not.
No, I meant for what happened in the security room.
Yeah. So I will allow you to use control and science to access the computer system to see if you can get it working again in order to play back the moments before the explosion and during and after. I will make this difficulty 1 because you are just bringing the system back online and replaying a file, basically. That's how well navigated, which is fine, yes. You're able to coax one of the semi-damaged consoles back into life, and by doing so you access the last security log, the last sensor log of the security office, and you wind it back a bit to the point before the explosion, and everything seems fine and dandy. There's just those 2 security officers and all the prisoners. There are about let me count a minute. The number of prisoners is about 3 in total, including the Ferguson fellow who had been incarcerated as a result of being caught as a spy for the Orions. So there are 3 cells that had occupants, and so the internal sensors show them just basically either sitting down or lying down or pacing. And then all of a sudden the backs of their cells are blown out backwards away from them. And humanoids with green skin and bald heads, all jam in and grab each of the prisoners. Now, the interesting thing here is that
do they have the same marks from that
over the one? So, what was that? Sorry.
I think did they have the same kind of markings that the other criminal group had?
Because you brought that up, I'm going to give you that as a freebie. Yes.
I was going to do something before things kicked off. I was going to ask the Admiral if Edwards could basically cross-reference the code from the hack with the code he encountered when facing these particular individuals, but then things got real.
Yes. Okay. So what you see is that the cell back of the back of each cell gets blown out. A number of Orions with the sword tattoo of the Tarn down the left side of their faces basically break in, grab each of the prisoners, gun down the 2 security officers because the explosion made the force fields on these cells collapse, and a couple more Orion guys plant more explosives, and everyone then leaves before those final explosives detonate, and that's what caused the big explosion that injured so many people with debris. But with the extra success that Edwards got there, I'm going to say that there is one detail that stands out in that out of the three criminals in the cells, 2 of them go along with their Orion. If there's a word for those who
Liberators?
Yeah, thank you. So 2 of them go along with their Orion Liberators willingly, even seem to get handed weapons. But Ferguson seems to put up a fight. He seems to be refusing to go, so they drag him out of the cell, and that's the last you see of him before the final explosion goes off and the security feed cuts out.
Feed this to senior staff, including the station security staff.
Okay. Station security
senior.
Staff at the moment,
Senior.
Yeah.
So
she's having trouble dealing with everything that's going on at the moment and locking down the entire station. So she is basically saying, I need help. If they've gone into the in the maintenance ducts and stuff like that, then I don't have the personnel left now to go in there as well.
That was the point. The message to the captain's one. It's your favourite Orions have caused this.
So Bertram has gotten civilians as stabilized as he's going to. Everyone now just needs to be taken to like a medical station just to get their cuts cleaned up and whatnot. So Bertram is pretty much free to go wherever he wants, and of course there's Andrews and Nova and everyone else. With Vibers currently up on the ship still not seeing anything out of the ordinary much going on, other than obviously that the station has been put onto alert. What would the rest of the main characters like to do? You're all at least still close enough to the security station, physically close to the security station, that you can go help each other in whatever venture you want to go on. So, anything else you'd like to do now that you've analysed security footage and determined the type of explosive compound used? Okie dokes.
I do have one thing we'll be doing on the Navis once they've told us what the compound is, which is we're going to scan the Navis for that compound.
Okay. So.
Because I'm paranoid that they're not getting on my ship.
Okay. That'll take a little time to do, but.
Yeah.
It's a safe bet. Actually, that's a pretty good, safe direction to go in. What about Andrews, Nova, Bertram, Edwards, and Thazanan?
I suppose it will be a case of searching the, going through the security channels. Did Ferguson have his comm badge on him out of interest?
No, he was stripped of all that stuff when he was.
Okay, yeah.
Standard procedure,
Yeah.
I would ask the Navis to start searching for a getaway ship.
Navis at the moment is busy scanning itself to see if anyone has got Triceron on it, so...
We'll be afterwards then, I suppose. But yeah.
We're keeping an eye out for things. That's the getaway ships, because that's what the science team were doing.
Yes. So the science team are keeping an eye on things, but now you've got... you're going to have dedicated people on internal sensors doing sweeps of the decks.
So, I think I've probably... Who do we want to call on for that one so that I've actually used a person for it?
What?
Kursk?
For which bit, sorry?
The scanning all the decks so I'm not just pulling a whole department off checking for getaway ships.
So you're either trying to allocate somebody to be in charge of science in order to scan for ships, or you're trying to allocate a character to be in charge of scanning the ship for Triceron.
Yeah.
Or both. Which would you rather?
Any preference on people we allocate for that?
Well, let's go back to the bridge and see who we've got.
I'd be happy with Kurst doing it.
Okay, so Kurst is just kind of putting it by here.
We're putting her on internal or external with those skills?
Let's see, she's got sensors and computers, electrical engineering, systems investigation, audit specialist. It sounds more like she's internal to me.
Yeah.
So, anything else?
And then I'm not going to put a team on the... I'm not going to call a person on the external keep an eye on things, because if there's any actions on that, I'm calling on Lenny.
Righty-ho. So for the moment, the only one you're activating is Kurst. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine and dandy. We'll get to Kurst in a bit then, but what I want to do now is deal with the group still on the station. So going into the tunnels then, there are... I mean, Sean, you back, or is the cat still sick? Oh no, he's sent me a message.
Yeah.
Life events, okay, yeah. You are still with us, excellentes. Well, I take it that Nova wants to go with the team into the tunnels, since she's a...
yeah, I think so.
Tunnel rat. So who are we missing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're basically missing somebody for Davis to be whilst you guys are traipsing around the tunnels. So do we want to activate one of our security personnel to go along with this team, or somebody else? Or is Davis just happy sitting here watching us do this investigation of the tunnels?
I'm happy coordinating the backup from elsewhere, and I can get pulled in over comms to help. So that's actually quite nice. It doesn't mean we've got to have me in everywhere or proxying.
Okay, cool. We'll go with that. So, as you expect, navigating the service tunnels behind the cells. You're going through the dirty, grimy, kind of less well-known parts of the station, the bits that most folks don't visit that often, which is probably why it makes such a good exit strategy. So going to need to first test to see if you can find who you're looking for and not get lost. So we're looking for a combination of building on those successes you had at identifying Triceron, so someone's going to need to track the Triceron compound, with somebody also keeping a good old idea of where in the layout you are, so you can get a good idea. Plus, let's not forget that Nova can empathically sense people, so it might be a good idea for Nova to use her empathic powers to navigate, try and find these guys hiding in the tunnels. These are all just ideas I'm throwing out there off the top of my head, so up to you, what you guys want to do. Otherwise, I just make it be a...
Sorry, I've realised I'd muted myself.
Oh,
As I say, if I go along, I can try using my medical tricorder to scan for any evidence of Orions.
Orion DNA, yep, okay.
Yep.
So that would be control of medicine jobby. Anybody else trying to find their way through the lattice work? It's going to be probably control and science for anybody trying to follow the Triceron compound. It's more
Just want to check.
Go on.
Can we sort of get medical records for Ferguson? Would that make it easier to scan for him? Or can we scan for him specifically?
You can try. In fact, let you try that. Give me a control and security check then for Commander Thazanan, please, as he does a sweep for a specific individual's DNA. So you're using your security access to get access to Ferguson's record in order to access his medical data, which will then give you a life sign to try and check the station for. So, yeah, control and security from Thazanan first, difficulty 1. Nice, 2 successes. So that leads us nicely to give a bonus to anybody who wants to do a control and medicine check to check for life forms matching that DNA or life form pattern. So it would make sense for Bertram to do this, but anybody who wants to jump in can do so. Control and medicine. 2 successes. Okay, building on the one we just got. You do have access to Ferguson's medical records, and therefore you've got a life scan of him, but you do not have any record of him on the station, which can mean one of 2 things with the detailed successes that you've got. Accessing the security feeds as well. You note that as soon as Ferguson was dragged off into the service tunnels, the internal sensors lost his life sign. So it's entirely likely that he might still be present on the station, but if he is, he's somewhere in the service tunnels where he can't be sensed by the current sensors. With that, then, let us assume that you are navigating the tunnels, searching for them. So, from Nova, can I have insight and command with your empathy, projection, focus, and anybody else who wants to use insight and security to try and keep the layout of the place so you don't get lost? You can team up, you can do individuals.
Would it be possible?
What was that, Alex?
Before going into the tunnels, would it be possible to have a sound gun or 2 beamed across? Because we're going to want to take people alive.
In that case, I am going to say that you are going to need to pay
If it's possible, if it's going to be
for that.
As I say, if it's going to be a problem, then no. But obviously,
it's no problem, but I want you to pay the opportunity cost of 2 to get them.
as also if the captain authorises it.
Yeah, might as well.
Cool. So, 2 momentum to buy the use of... sorry, I was doing it at the same time someone else was. 2 momentum to buy the sound guns. So who wants them? Currently, Thasman has one, so I'm assuming he gets one.
I mean, he has become a fan of it. Edwards will give it a bit of a go as well. Yeah, unless the captain wants to take it.
No, it's fine.
You okay?
Nova relies on lefty and righty usually, so. Alright then, let's go. Looking for trouble. So, let's go away from the concerned people.
Probably best I have a sound gun in hand, otherwise I'll be spilling blood.
Because you haven't invented your non-lethal knife yet.
Exactly.
Just get a 2x4 with a nail and it'll do the same thing.
Okay.
I do love it how an unarmed strike does the same amount of damage as stabbing someone with a dagger.
The difference, of course, being that the dagger has got deadly hidden, and it also costs it has an opportunity cost if you want to get it. So, and in certain circumstances, I could call for escalation. So, there you go. So yeah, it is interesting. They and it kind of makes sense because they're both hand-sized weapons. So I think that's where they were going with the damage ratio. Nevertheless, let's see what we got here. Right. So let me just configure vision and stuff. 10 is only that much. Okay, let's go with... That's better. Let me make sure I've got given folks vision. To represent you going through lit service ways.
Oh, we're going to be on a different map?
We are going to be on a different map just as soon as I have given you something you can see the map with. Rather than you zooming into a map and wondering why you can't see anything. So.
Half the fun at this point.
That's not what I want. Oh, that's why it's not playing anything. I was wondering why the music's been so silent this entire time. Okay, here we go. In the service tunnels. Following the trail, the Triceron particles seem to be going in a northerly direction from where you currently are. And Nova can definitely sense the presence of living minds nearby. They all seem focused and intent on what they're doing, whatever it is. They are nearby. Nova reckons about 3.
I reset the sound gun to Orion.
Okay. Noted.
Oh, yep, same. Makes sense.
Alright, you have control of your characters, so off you go.
Sorry, just checking which direction did we come from?
You came from this direction here, where I am currently pinging, and the Triceron particles are going this way, the way direction Nova's going. Okay, stop-a-dare. Nova rounds a corner and starts going ahead, and then when you comes to what looks like a junction, you can definitely see an Orion who is not facing your direction currently, but you can definitely hear the sound of something going on. There are multiple voices talking kind of from this area ahead of you. What would you like to do? You don't have much time to decide because you've only just spotted them, and of course walking around in these areas means that you've got boot falls against metal, so...
Stealth roll?
If you want to try stealth, then that's control and security.
Oh, you can actually do that.
You've always been able to.
We just never even tried.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I am gonna buy that off.
I think we're all doing that then.
Yep. Legion of
I don't want to be the one that gets the people in front killed because I was noisy.
Right. 2 successes from Thazana, 2 successes from Edwards, 1 from Bertram. Okay. 2 successes from you. Okay. I'm seeing no attempt from Nova, so I'm guessing she's going in blithely.
Yep, full fast.
Excellent. Okay. So, I am going to give Andrews and Edwards and Thazanan what's essentially a surprise round, because the attention of the Tarn soldiers are going to be drawn towards Nova, who they can hear coming, and Bertram to a degree, but mostly Nova because she's making no attempt to disguise herself. So, yeah, I'm going to give those 3 the option of doing something first before anybody else can take an action. So, off you go. Pause. Who wants to go first out of Edwards, Thazanan, and Andrews? Bearing in mind, none of you can actually see what Nova sees. You only know that they're quick to action. You and me eyes will ignore the normal cost of keeping the initiative, which is
you said
fine.
You said it was a surprise round,
but
so
it was a surprise.
Anyway.
So what I meant by that was, yep, you don't have to spend that. Normally you could. Even with keep the initiative, though, only 1 extra ally would be able to go before they go. So in 2nd edition, there is a set rule. I may have missed it in 1st, but for 2nd edition, there's definitely a rule. Even if you keep the initiative, one of you goes, then another one of you goes by keeping the initiative, but at the very least, 1 enemy then has to go after that. You can't just keep it all you guys. But because you are sneaking up on them and have evaded their notice for now, that's why I'm letting you 3 go before anybody else. So out of Edwards, Thazanan, Andrews, who would like to take the first set of actions? And remember, if you need help with what actions you can take, you should all have access to that reference document that I gave the link to in Discord. You are looking for essentially page 3 onwards, page 3 and 4, which is what the personal combat ones, where the personal combat short rules are. But they're not that different from what you know previously. But if you want examples of what you can do, then obviously you can try and sprint if you want to cover ground really, really quickly. You can use a major action to ready an action if you want to wait for something else to happen. If you want to prepare yourself for an incoming attack, you can use the major action to basically fight defensively, to guard, which means that any attacks against you are more difficult. If you are a commanding officer, you can direct somebody to take an action now, outside of their normal turn. You can choose to assist somebody.
Yeah,
Sorry, go on.
So tempted now to direct Nova to stealth up.
If Nova chooses to obey the order, I suppose you could. Whether Nova accepts the order or not is entirely up to him. Sure. Other actions you can take, well, obviously attack.
I think.
You can attack. So.
Yeah, I think it's probably a good idea to move up and engage.
Okay, so you can move. This place is separated into zones as usual. You're in the zone of the tunnel at the moment. This door ahead of you delineates the entrance to the next zone. You can cross one zone easily enough without needing to use a major action, so that's a minor action to do, just like before.
Alright. I'll use minor action to move up and then I'll fire.
Okay, so that's an attack. So you've moved up. The sound gun has got a range of probably enough. Yeah. It's ranged. You can see to the next. You can affect the next one easily. So. Now the deal with this now is that since we don't have challenge dice to allow us to use the area effect. So before, when we wanted to use the area effect ability of any weapon, you would designate one target. If there was somebody immediately next to that target, they would be included in the effect. But when you then roll challenge dice, every effect you got on the challenge dice would enable you to target an additional, target in that area. Now it works a little differently, insofar as you spend momentum to target an additional person. So for every point of momentum you spend, you can target someone extra in the zone as the target you originally wanted to affect.
I shall target this guy here. I can't do the targeting thing.
Now, once again, I hasten to note... oh, no, pardon me. Nope, ignore that. I thought I had put that on as a quality of the sound gun. I have not, therefore... What? So
yeah, the guy on the far end there. And I shall give you a point of threat. Using my Intense Andorian. So I buy an extra d20, but I do get a bonus momentum, so I can target an additional guy, which will be the hacker in the middle.
Right, the hacker the problem with the sound gun is that you attune it to a certain species. So the other target has to be of the same species as the first target, I am afraid.
I thought you could target them anyway, it would just be a disadvantage. You won't get as much of a damage on them. You're still firing a sound wave at someone.
It was cycled through, the idea was cycled through to a specific race. I've never
Yeah.
I didn't think I actually
Right,
tested it
Alex.
against other ones.
Alex, as I was explaining before you interrupted me,
Sorry.
it's a sound wave.
Okay,
Therefore, there is a potential it would still hit someone, but potentially do less damage.
Alright, I can go with that. I will allow that, yeah. That makes logical sense. So you can hit the hacker down. Okay. For my own benefit, no those. Alright, so since they are not aware of you until this point, you are hitting with, so you're using control and security with a difficulty of 2 to fire this weapon. You gave me a threat so that you could do your moving, so you can get a 3 point of momentum to target the additional guys. That's all good and groovy. So yeah, basically control and security. Ooh, hello.
Oh my word.
Is another one gone? So you're down
today.
to... Is that down to
Down
one?
to one.
Last one? Yes.
Yes.
Oh dear, oh dear. Alright, so ignoring that, we still have 2 successes, which is exactly what we wanted, so just click on the sound gun in your weapons area. It should give us the damage it does. Now, because it is key to 1, I'm going to say it does different damage for the hacker than it does the soldier. Right then, so, in case you haven't noticed already, these guys have got a stress meter, which means they are a special type of NPC, which means that they do have stress they can call upon in order to avoid damage. So that's essentially what this guy is going to do. He's going to avoid an injury, pardon me, not damage, he's going to avoid an injury by using stress, as is this guy. This guy's got less stress. So he's not going to be able to do that too many times, except he takes less damage and therefore chooses less to avoid it. Now, the stun, which area, debilitating. Let's remind ourselves of what debilitating does in this. The difficulty to treat or heal injuries is increased by 1. That's fine. That's only important when they try and get each other up. So that's basically Thazanan's turn. The minor action was to move, the major action was to use the sound gun, and he did it very well indeed. So that leaves Andrews and Edwards with something they can do now ahead of everybody else. What would you like to do? You mean you got your normal combat actions? Draw a weapon, move, shoot. The problem with drawing a weapon is that it takes a minor action, and moving is a minor action as well. But you can spend a point of momentum to do 2 minor actions.
Alright, if we're doing that, then we'll just go
Unless
for
I was
the,
going to say Andrews wants to get in for hand-to-hand distance, in which case that's fine and dandy. So, these guys... Okay, how many have you got left now? One? One. Alright, this guy is unaware of you, and you are using unarmed combat, which is daring and security with a difficulty of 1. You got 2 successes, which means you can either... well, no, it just goes straight into momentum. So... obviously, momentum spends that you can do for personal combat are increase the severity, therefore the damage of the attack by spending 2 momentum, or you can spend a momentum to disarm, 1 momentum to disarm of a one-handed weapon, 2 momentum to disarm somebody of a two-handed weapon. The Tarn soldiers are wielding disruptor rifles, so that is a 2-handed weapon. This guy is wielding no weapons and is currently trying to attach something to his console over here. So,
let's go to try and disarm this Tarn soldier then. Okay, so that's basically spend that point of momentum that you just accrued. Cool, so he no longer has the disruptor rifles. That goes skidding off nearby. So he no longer has access to that as a weapon. Okay, cool. So now what does Edwards want to do?
Come up with him and we'll hit the one on the target the one furthest away as well. The sound gun.
Now, I am going to assume you already had that out because you repositioned it especially. So, yeah, okay then. No problemo. It's going to be the same as before then. This is going to be a difficulty 2 weapon to use with control and security. If you have...
I can't remember. My experimental doesn't technically work with this anymore because it's no longer experimental.
It's not an experiment. It was... Yeah. It's a proven a proven thing now, a proven piece of technology. Okay.
Ooh.
One success, which means that the gun fails to go off in the manner that you wanted and therefore does not affect the Tarn Orions like you wanted it to. Maybe a bit of extra attunement might be necessary. Okay, which means it is now the Tarn's turn. So this guy is going to... Do I activate this guy or do I activate the other? I'm going to activate the other guy, actually, now that I think of it. And he is going to use his minor action to move to there. And then he is going to use his major action to guard this fellow. So from here on, anyone attempting to hit that guy. So now I have to do insight and security. So let's see if I can do that. Insight, security. I got one success. Guard requires difficulty 0, so I got extra threat for that. So now anybody who tries to target the hacker, basically, it has extra difficulty of 1 added to any attempt to do so. But as his major action, that's pretty much all he can do. So now we can have Nova go. Nova, you have been activated. Same deal. Same kind of minor actions and major actions as before. So a minor action to move, if you want to close to within hand-to-hand distance. Major action to basically attack. Now, this guy is now aware of you, which means this is no longer against difficulty 1. This is against his daring and security. So...
I was going to say, is attack of opportunity actually a thing?
Not really in this, no.
No, but you could use it for this guy because he's probably got the same.
Okay, you're attacking that guy instead, but yeah, he's aware of your presence as well, so it's the same thing. Yeah. Unfortunately, I rolled 4 successes, so that's what you have to overcome in order to hit him. But I believe in Nova.
Let's not deify yet.
So, use whatever you have at your disposal. You have 4 momentum in the pool. You have your focus, of course, for your acrobatic brawling. Any of your rewards you want to bring into it that can allow you a combat thing, like that one. So, once per mission, when you spend a point of determination on a task involving that particular focus. Okay, so that means you are using one of your values, ain't all buttons and charts. So remember to make a note in your log that you did this. Yep. That you spent that value to do this, to combat with an Orion. Dokey doos. So that gives you a determination you can spend on this. Now, this is where we have to change things a little bit, because determination doesn't work like it used to. So this time, a point of determination doesn't grant you an extra dice that automatically rolls a 1. It replaces one of the dice in your pool and assumes that dice rolls an extra 1. Now, the guys, I should say, who coded this for Foundry haven't made that change, and I can see why, because it's kind of finicky, because then you'd have to basically knock down the number of dice used, which we can do ourselves. So what you can
do... just have as a false roll 1.
Yeah, you just roll 1 less than you otherwise would, and you check determination, it will roll the dice, that automatically rolls the determination roll. So, essentially, you're using check off that you've used a point of determination, as you normally do.
Yeah.
And use daring and security with however many dice you want to use, but lower the dice count by 1. Remember to check determination.
Well, I suppose because of the Cochrane medal, why not just count that as 2.
Since you're getting the...
So getting 2 benefits of it instead of 1, it's a suit kind of...
It's giving you extra successes, basically. So we'll just count extra successes on. So you've automatically got 4 successes right there, is whether you make any more. So you 1 extra, so you make 5. There you are. 1 extra, so that goes in the momentum pool because you can spend however much, you can increase the intensity of your unarmed attack by 1 by spending 2 momentum. So you can either let it do its 2 damage.
I think, yeah, 2 damage is fine.
Okay, so this guy is going to use 2 stress in order to avoid an injury, or a knockout in this case. So he avoids your swing by the hair's breadth, but nonetheless you have managed to do your thing. So, cool on the gang. That's how determination works now when you use it in combat. And when you use it for rolling in general. Places a dice rather than adds a dice. So cool, which means that with Nova having gone, unless Nova wants to do anything else, I mean you can spend momentum to do another major action, but it becomes more difficult.
No, I'll pass it on to the next.
Okay, in which case it's one of them that goes next. So I am going to have Town Soldier number 2. He is going to use a minor action to whip out a knife. I'm going to spend a point of threat to use... actually, no, I don't need to. Because he's staying where he is. So he is going to do a daring insecurity against Andrews. So Andrews rolls daring insecurity because she is defending herself, so I have to get over whatever you roll. Which is 1 success. Okay. I need to get over 1 success. So he is using control and security with a focus, 2 dice. He's feeling pretty good about his chances. Let's go. He got no successes and a complication. I'm going to buy off that complication by spending 3 threat. Now, because he got no successes and you got 1, you can, if you want, counter-attack by spending 2 momentum.
Yeah.
Okay, you get to counter-attack. So, what that means is, because you basically won, you spend 2 momentum to counter-attack, inflicting an injury. So you don't have to roll to hit, you're assumed to. So, give us your unarmed... Well, you don't need to, it's 2. So, unless you want to spend 2 momentum to up the damage... We've got 3 momentum in the pool, it costs us 2 momentum to up the intensity of your unarmed strikes damage. Physical enhancement. Ooh, hello. Okay, how are you increasing it by?
I'll take the stress. It's free.
Hang on. This is adding. This device functions, however, before attempting a task, you choose to take an injury in order to add a d20. It's a bit late for that. Should have done that. Okay, let's do that retroactively then for now, because
it's fine.
That needed to be
just
done.
do it.
Just do it. Save it for later. So 2, wabang. He's going to use 2 stress to avoid an injury. Okay. We have Dr. Bertram, who's next. What would the doc like to do?
Yes, that's what I'll need to do is actually move up so I can see what's going on.
Yep. Okay.
Oh.
3 assailants, 2 of them Orion, 1 of them that strange chameleonic humanoid race that we've seen with the Orions so much before. That's we're able to... apparently really good hackers.
Is that what he's doing at the moment?
That seems to, he's definitely doing something to this console here. He's attaching a device to it.
I don't know if I can do this. Can I try throwing a sample of Bertram moss onto it to try and actually mess with the energy in the device that he's using?
I am going to go with yes. Yes, you can. Now, this is an interesting one because this is going to be a it's not really a control and security one, it's a control and medicine. Because you're utilizing a biological life form in order to interfere with a mechanical one. Do any of your focuses apply?
I've got mycology.
Yeah. Go with it. Let's go with it. I'm going to make it more difficult for you, though, because you're trying to coordinate hand-eye coordination. So I'm going to make this a difficulty 2 as if you were using a ranged weapon.
I was going to say, I'm trying to interfere in science using nature, so I'd also like to
utilize
invoke that.
Determination. Okay. So make a note that you have used that value in this fashion to this effect during this episode.
Okay.
And for a reminder, we are on episode 45.
Right, so I should reduce it to 1 so that the determination will add the second one as the 1, is that right?
So reduce the number of dice by 1 so that and check that you're using determination. Yep.
Is it the one saying using determination value?
Yes.
As opposed to dedicated focus?
Yes, don't use dedicated focus. I believe dedicated focus is the one that doubles your focus range. So.
Right. Okay.
Ooh, you got 1 over. Well done. All right. So with a splat, one of the containers of the moss.
And I got faith of the heart.
When you use a value as a gain determination, you may also add 1 momentum to the group pool. Very good. Do not sing it though.
I'll try not to.
I will cut anybody who sings that.
What, from the stream or physically?
Maybe a bit of both. All right, so Bertram manages to successfully throw a bit of moss, which will take some time to, but it starts to already start to grow, which means this hacker is now going to try and hurry the hell up over what he's doing before he disengages. So he's going to be one last go at this. What is he doing? Engineering. With a focus, I'm going to throw threat onto this. 1, 1, 2. I'm going up rather than down. 1, 1, 2. Whoops. I'm cheating a bit there. Ooh, I'm going to need to spend 6 more threat
complications
to negate those complications. Whoosh! My threat pool has gone way the hell down. But he seems to finish what he's fitting to this console, and clicks an activation stud before using his minor action to move away, and that's all he's doing, and that is where we're going to end our episode for tonight. What's going on? Our first second edition combat. Hopefully we can see it's gone a titch faster with not having to roll challenge dice, but at the same time hasn't gone that much faster than it otherwise would have. But that's for my players and I to discuss after the stream has ended rather than nowish. So for everybody who did attend the stream, we hoped you enjoyed it. Feel free to join us next week when we continue this little adventure to see what it is that the Orions are actually up to on Narendra Station. Until then, of course, we ask you to do like the Vulcans do, which is to live long and prosper. And yes, when other people are getting upset and aggressive, maintain your internal emotional focus and don't just go along with the herd, because you could end up intentionally punching a dude out that you didn't really intend to. And maybe having to restrain your operations officer from going full wild thing on them. In the meantime, we also ask you to engage in infinite diversity in infinite combinations, and we will see you when we see you next. Hailing frequencies on our